Imagine you're a young girl, no older than 8, holding your favorite ice cream on a warm, sunny afternoon. You're out with your mum, feeling free and excited as you explore the lively riverside park. Laughter from other kids fills the air, and for a brief moment, everything feels perfect. But then, something unusual catches your eye. A man who stands out from everyone else. This isn't just any man. He moves through the crowd with ease. Almost like the park bends around him. People seem to part as he walks, clearing the way without a word. You've seen him somewhere before, but not in the way most people recognize him. He's not just the billionaire who's all over the news or the CEO people talk about. No, you've seen him in a much more personal place. Your own family photo albums. That's exactly how little Lily Evans felt when she spotted Alexander Hayes for the first time in real life. She wasn't interested in his expensive suit or the security guards that flanked his sides. What caught her attention was far deeper. Lily, in her curious, innocent way, had seen this man in old pictures, tucked away in her small apartment. Pictures her mother had refused to explain. And now, he was right here, in the same park as her. Her mom, Sarah, who had been distracted by a work call, didn't notice Lily slowly drifting away. Lily's curiosity pulled her closer and closer to this man, this stranger who somehow wasn't a stranger at all. The ice cream in her hand started to melt, but she didn't care. Without thinking, she tossed it into a trash can and slipped through the crowd. Her eyes locked on Alexander. Her heart raced as she ducked between two distracted bodyguards and tugged on his expensive jacket. "Hi, sir," she said, her voice small but steady. "Why do you appear in my family's photo albums?" Those words, so simple and innocent, shook Alexander to his core. At first, he looked down, surprised to see a small girl tugging at him, her curly hair wild, and her eyes, those bright green eyes that seemed so familiar, wide with curiosity. For a brief moment, the polished businessman, the billionaire who controlled a vast empire, was at a loss for words. He dropped his phone, and his security detail immediately tensed, but he waved them off, unable to look away from the little girl. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice quieter now. As he knelt down to her level, Lily repeated her question. "You're in the pictures with my mom. She gets sad when I ask about them. Are you friends?" Before Alexander could answer, another figure rushed forward. Lily's mom, Sarah. Her face, pale and filled with shock, froze as soon as she saw who her daughter was talking to. Time seemed to stop as their eyes met. Sarah hadn't seen Alexander in years, and suddenly, all those memories she had tried so hard to bury came flooding back. But now wasn't the time for those feelings. "Lily, oh my God, Lily," Sarah said, pulling her daughter close, her voice shaking with panic. Lily looked up at her mom, confused. "Mom, do you know him? Why won't you talk to him?" The tension in the air was thick as Sarah pulled Lily away, her grip tight and her expression one of both fear and anger. Alexander stood up, his voice calm, but filled with something unspoken. "Sarah, please." After all this time, but Sarah wouldn't hear it. "We have nothing to discuss," she said quickly, her voice trembling. Without another word, she turned and walked away with Lily, leaving Alexander standing there, his security detail surrounding him once more. That night, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, the questions came. "Mom, why did you run away from him today?" Lily asked, her innocent curiosity bubbling to the surface again. "Why won't you tell me who he is?" Sarah sat down on the edge of her daughter's bed, her shoulders heavy with the weight of the past. "It's complicated, sweetheart," she said, softly. "Sometimes grown-ups have histories that are hard to explain. But you were friends, right? He looked sad when we left, Lily pressed, her eyes wide with wonder. In her young mind, everything seemed so simple. Why couldn't her mum and this mysterious man just talk? Sarah sighed, brushing a stray curl away from Lily's face. We were more than friends once, a long time ago. She kissed her daughter goodnight and turned off the light, hoping the conversation would end there. But later that night, as Lily sneaked down the hallway, she found her mom sitting at the kitchen table with something in her hand, one of the old photo albums. Sarah was staring at a picture of her and Alexander from years ago, back when they were both young and carefree, and clutched in her other hand was a business card, the same card Alexander had given her in the park. Tears streamed down her face, and Lily watched from the shadows, too young to fully understand, but old enough to know that something big was happening. In that moment, Lily made a decision. If her mum wouldn't talk to the man from their past, maybe she would. After all, Alexander Hayes wasn't just any man. He was someone important, not because of his money or his fame, but because he made her mom cry, and in Lily's mind, that meant he was someone worth knowing. But little did Lily know, her simple question in the park had already set off a chain of events that would change everything. Alexander Hayes wasn't just a figure from their past. He was a key to unlocking secrets that had been hidden for nearly a decade. Secrets that would soon unravel, leaving Sarah, Alexander, and Lily caught in the middle of a story filled with lost love, hidden truths, and the kind of emotions that even time couldn't erase. What happens when a billionaire realizes he might have a daughter he never knew about? And how will Sarah handle the truth she's kept buried for so long? You'll have to stay tuned for the next part, because things are about to get very complicated. Lily lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, her mind racing with thoughts of the man from the park. She could still see the look in his eyes, the way he stared at her, as if she was someone he recognized. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story, and she was determined to find out. The next morning, as her mom rushed to get ready for work, Lily stayed quiet, watching her closely. Sarah seemed more tired than usual, her eyes red from the night before. But she didn't say anything about Alexander or the picture Lily had caught her looking at. Days passed, and Lily's curiosity only grew. She didn't bring up Alexander again, sensing her mum's discomfort whenever his name was mentioned. But that didn't stop her from thinking about him. After school, she'd sneak a peek at the photo albums, flipping through the old pictures, searching for clues. In one photo, her mum and Alexander were standing side by side, laughing under the bright sun. They looked so happy, like they belonged together. But why had everything changed? Why had her mum walked away from him at the park? Meanwhile, Alexander couldn't stop thinking about the little girl who had confronted him so boldly. Lily's question had shaken him in ways he couldn't explain. He knew Sarah had a child, but seeing her, seeing Lily, it brought up memories he had buried long ago. He had thought about reaching out to Sarah many times over the years, but life had taken them on different paths. He had built an empire, worked tirelessly to become the man the world saw today. But no amount of wealth or success had erased the feelings he once had for her. Now, seeing Lily and realizing just how much time had passed, something inside him had shifted. He needed answers. Alexander's assistant, Monica, noticed the change in him right away. He was distracted, his mind elsewhere during meetings. "Sir, is everything okay?" she asked one afternoon. Watching him stare out the window, lost in thought, Alexander shook his head, clearing his mind. "I need to know more about Sarah Evans," he said quietly. "She has a daughter. I want to know everything." Monica didn't question it. She was used to handling delicate matters for him. Within hours, she had gathered everything there was to know about Sarah and her life, since she had parted ways with Alexander all those years ago. The more he learned, the more his chest tightened. Sarah had struggled, working long hours to make ends meet, raising Lily on her own, and there was no record of any contact between her and Alexander since they had last seen each other. But what really caught his attention was the timeline. Lily was 8 years old. That would place her birth right around the time he and Sarah had last been together. A knot formed in his stomach. Could Lily be his daughter? The possibility hit him like a freight train. If Lily was his, how could Sarah have kept this from him for so long? He had to know the truth. Back in their small apartment, Sarah couldn't escape the thoughts that plagued her. Seeing Alexander again had opened old wounds she had carefully bandaged over the years. She had loved him once, deeply, but their worlds were so different, and in the end, she had made the hardest decision of her life, to walk away. She had never told him about Lily. She didn't think it would matter. His life was too far removed from hers, and she didn't want her daughter to grow up in the shadow of his fame and fortune. But now, everything was unraveling. One evening, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, she felt the weight of her secret heavier than ever. Lily, always full of curiosity, asked again, "Mom, why won't you tell me about him?" Sarah sighed, sitting down beside her daughter. "Lily, it's complicated. Sometimes grown-ups make choices they think are best for everyone, even when it's hard." She stroked Lily's hair, her heart aching. "But he looked like he wanted to talk to you," Lily said softly. "He didn't seem like a bad person." Sarah bit her lip. She couldn't deny it. Alexander wasn't a bad person. He had always been kind to her, even when their relationship had become strained. But life had pushed them apart, and she had made a decision she couldn't take back. "Lily," she said after a long pause, "there are things I've never told you about your father." Lily's eyes widened. She had never asked about her dad before. It had always just been her and her mom, and that was enough. But now, she sat up, eager to know more. "What about him?" Sarah's throat tightened. She had kept this secret for so long. But now, with Alexander back in their lives, she couldn't hide it anymore. "Your father. He doesn't know about you. I never told him." Lily blinked in confusion. "Why not? Doesn't he want to know me?" Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she struggled to find the right words. "I thought it was best to protect you. His life is complicated. He's a very powerful man, and I didn't want you to grow up feeling like you didn't belong." Lily's heart raced. "Who is he, Mom? Is it that man from the park?" Sarah closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Yes, Lily, Alexander Hayes. He's your father." Lily's breath caught in her throat. The man she had seen in the park, the man in their photo albums, he was her dad. Suddenly, everything made sense. The way he had looked at her, the sadness in his eyes. He wasn't just a stranger. He was part of her life, a part she had never known. But before Sarah could say anything else, there was a knock at the door. Sarah froze, her heart pounding. She wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly she stood up, walking to the door with a sense of dread. When she opened it, there stood Alexander, his face full of determination and sadness. "We need to talk," he said quietly. The tension in the air was thick, and Sarah knew that everything she had kept hidden was about to come crashing down. Lily watched from the hallway, her heart racing as the pieces of the puzzle finally started to come together. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment where everything would change. But what would happen next? Would Alexander accept the truth? Would he become part of their lives? Or would the past tear them apart once more? As the silence stretched between Sarah and Alexander, The answer hung in the balance, and Lily knew that their lives would never be the same again. Sarah's heart pounded as she stood face to face with Alexander, words failing her. The truth was now out, and the weight of her secret bore down on her. She could see the mix of emotions on his face: shock, anger, confusion. But above all, there was something else: pain. He had come all this way, demanding answers. But now that he stood there, it was clear that he had no idea what to expect. "Why didn't you tell me?" Alexander's voice was quiet, but the hurt was unmistakable. "All these years, Sarah, you kept this from me." Sarah took a deep breath, her hands trembling. She didn't know where to begin, but she knew she had to try. "I thought I was doing what was best," she started, her voice shaky. "You were building your life, your business. You had so much going on, and I didn't want Lily to be caught in the middle of it all. I thought it was easier for everyone if we just stayed out of your way." Alexander's jaw clenched. "Easier? You thought it was easier to raise her without telling me she existed?" Lily stood in the hallway, her small figure barely visible behind the doorframe, but her wide eyes took everything in. Her heart was racing, trying to process the fact that the man she had seen in the park, the billionaire whose life seemed so far removed from hers, was her father. Her emotions swirled, part of her wanting to rush forward, another part feeling unsure, scared even, of what would come next. "I was scared, Alex," Sarah admitted, using the name she hadn't spoken aloud in years. "I didn't know how to tell you. And then time went on, and I didn't want to disrupt your life. I thought you would be better off without us." Alexander's gaze softened slightly, but the hurt lingered. "You had no right to make that decision for me. You should have told me, Sarah. I missed out on 8 years of her life. 8 years. How do you think that feels?" Sarah looked down, tears welling in her eyes. She had no defense for her choices. She had acted out of fear, out of a desire to protect her daughter. But now, faced with Alexander's pain, she realized just how much she had hurt him and Lily. From behind them, a small voice broke the tension. "Is it true?" Lily stepped forward, her eyes wide and uncertain. "Are you really my dad?" Alexander turned toward her, his face softening immediately. He crouched down to her level, his expression filled with a mix of awe and sadness. "Yes, Lily, I'm your dad." His voice cracked slightly as he spoke the words, as if the reality was sinking in for him just as much as it was for her. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt either of you." Alexander stood, still holding Lily's hand. He looked at Sarah, the anger fading from his eyes. "We can't change the past," he said softly, "but we can figure out what comes next." Over the next few weeks, they started to navigate their new reality. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of emotions, a lot of unanswered questions, but they were trying. Alexander spent as much time as he could with Lily, making up for the years he had missed. He took her to the park, listened to her stories, and learned everything he could about her. He wasn't just a billionaire anymore. He was a father, and that meant more to him than any business deal or fortune he had ever made. For Lily, it was a strange but wonderful time. She had always imagined what it would be like to have a dad. And now, she had one. And not just any dad. A dad who cared about her, who wanted to be in her life. She was still getting used to it, but she loved the way he made her feel important, like she mattered to him. As for Sarah, the road ahead was uncertain. She and Alexander had a lot to work through, but they were trying. They were both committed to being there for Lily, and that was what mattered most. The past couldn't be undone, but the future was still unwritten. and for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt hopeful. One afternoon, as the three of them sat in the park, watching the sunset, Lily turned to Alexander. "Dad," she said, softly, the words still new on her lips. "Are you going to be around forever?" Alexander smiled, his heart full. "I'll always be here for you, Lily. No matter what." In that moment, with the sun dipping below the horizon and the future stretching out before them, it felt like a new beginning. They had faced their past, their secrets had been revealed, but now they had the chance to build something new, together, and, for the first time, they all felt like a family.